Tracy Jay, just thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Tracy, just to begin with, just give us a quick rundown, a quick background of who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a past life regressionist. I'm certified as a hypnotherapist, and this is what we use to do past life regression. I was involved in the spiritual world since I was 12 years old and deeply immersed in that. And the first book I picked up at the Edgar Cayce Foundation was a hypnosis book. So I went through high school experimenting on my friends in high school. And eventually I got certified as a hypnotist. And it's my passion. I love bringing people into their other lifetimes. Very exciting for me.
Wow. So professionally since 2000?
Yes, and I work remotely. So with this whole COVID thing and everything, a lot of people are I think a lot more open to, remote work. And it's wonderful. It's a great way to work with people all around the world.
Interesting. Have you looked into your past lives?
It's like the cobbler whose children have no shoes. I am not the best hypnosis subject, so it's embarrassing to admit, but it's true. I do meditate and I can get in there, but I'm a control freak. And so I know about them. I've been told, like everybody else, by psychics. And in fact, I've done friends who have said, hey, you and I were together in the Civil War. I've had those kinds of experiences, but really, I don't know for my own experience what my past lives are.
No, I think that's an interesting point, actually, because some people you cannot put down, can you, because of that situation, because of their mind?
Well, they say everyone is hypnotizable. Everybody can be hypnotized, but it's really a deep state of focused relaxation, and the hypnotist is the guide. And so I could probably do it if I worked with another hypnotist or another past life regressionist, but I've never done that. I get such a charge out of working with people and helping them dig out, the source of their issue. So I don't really worry too much about it with myself. The thing is, Kevin, when people have serious illness, when people have run of bad luck, when people have proclivities and tendencies that are an issue, usually the source is in a past life, and it's a traumatic incident.
That's interesting. We'll get into that. We will, because I want to touch upon the illness. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say my life has been pretty average, I would think. There's nothing traumatic that's really happened in my life. I don't expect that I have anything really traumatic in my past lives.
But it's what you've chosen to do professionally in this lifetime, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So
yes, it is. It is.
Okay. Let's just go through the basics of hypnosis then. So what exactly is past life regression therapy, and how would you describe it to someone who's unfamiliar with the concept?
The first thing that I would do is suggest that they not take it so seriously, because it is when you put expectations on yourself that you think you might be wrong. So you don't want to say what the first thing that comes to your mind. And really that's what you need to say. So I would say just think of it as a fun experience. It's just like a deep meditation, except for that I'm doing it with them live and talking them into a deep state. And they get more and more relaxed. And then when I guide them to a point where they're sort of traveling through the ether, and then we bring them to the ground. Where are you? And get a sense of where you are. So it's a very gentle thing. And people oftentimes think that they have made it up afterward, until they find out that the character that they were was, in Wisconsin, for example, and they were driving a tractor, and the tractor was full of cranberries. And later they discovered that the top produce of Wisconsin is cranberries, and that's a validation for them. There's something they never would have known in the past, and yet so they couldn't have made it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should just mention as well that your book is due out in October. So anyone watching this in the future, the link for your book will be in the description below. You're based in Canada. Now, people can see you in person for a session, but again, mostly it's done online.
No, I do everything remotely.
Oh, now it's everything remotely. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
because you were based in the US for a bit, weren't you?
I was down in Fort Myers, and sort of circumstances brought me back up here. So that's fine by me because it's remote and I can connect with people all over anyway. So
a remote session then, what's a typical remote session? So people are coming to you for an issue, right? And then you're guiding them down. How long does the process take to get them, into that deeper level? And what methods do you use to guide them through as well?
That's a very good question. Depending on whether or not they're meditating. If they're meditating, they know how to get into that deep state. So I can use a very short induction. If I was a street hypnotist, you can put somebody under in a flash, instantly. But because we're remote and we're building trust, and they're a little fearful about the what's going to happen. It takes 15 to 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the person. I can tell if they're deep enough. And then it's basically having them use their imagination to create a scenario in their mind where they, a lot of people can't visualize necessarily. So they can see, they can feel, or they can imagine, they can visualize. And I give them those options. It doesn't matter how they sense their environment in their mind's eye. And so then I take them on a little journey where they meet their spirit guides, and they travel with their spirit guides, through the ether. And then we ask for the guidance. You see, I set them up at the beginning with an intention. And the intention is that they get the resolution, or they get more information about an issue that they're dealing with in this life. So we are handing over the process to the higher self, and the higher self is going to take them to the right experience for them to get the information for their highest and best good in this life. So this is the journey. I take them with the spirit guides, and then we travel, and then we bring them down wherever their higher self thinks that they need to be. And it's really exciting. And I have to be on my toes because you never know where you're going to land up. Like I said, you could land up on a tractor. You could land up where, you ask people to sense their environment, and they might just see a car tire. And then you have to get them to back up a little bit and sort of get a sense of the whole environment. They might see a horse, or they might see, a field of lavender. It's so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And are most people within the boundaries of Earth when they are having their regressions?
That's a very, very good question. And I'll tell you why. It seems that in my last several sessions, several people have been other beings. I asked them to look at, one of the first things we have them do is look down at their feet, mentally, to see what kind of foot coverings they have on. That's a big indicator of the era that they're in. Sometimes they say little slippers. Sometimes they'll say rough construction boots. Sometimes they'll say, bare feet. And so recently, a lot of these people are having lifetimes where they have blue skin or gray skin. And they end up having, as we work our way through the body, 4 fingers, One of them had 3 fingers. So this is happening a lot more often. And that's fascinating to me.
That is fascinating. And
Yeah,
okay, Tracy, just remind us as well of your website that people can go to find out more information about yourself as well.
sure. Sure. It's visitapastlife.com. And I have a YouTube channel by the same name, visitapastlife.com. Not .com for YouTube. But and right now I'm running a special where they buy 2 sessions and they'll get 1 free.
Right. Okay, that's
So
cool.
that's good.
That's
Yeah.
cool. So, what are some of the common reasons then for people seeking a past life regression? What are some of the issues or the healing that they want to get from that session? Is there anything in common?
That's another good one. Well, you see, there's 2 reasons. One is psychological and one is physical. And it usually just it works out to one of those 2 areas. So psychologically, recently, I've had several people come to me saying that they feel like they've lived a life of invisibility. And that's another weird thing. There seems to be like a common theme where people, I get a series of people who are all experiencing this one thing. Or, like I said, with that, the ET lifetimes, I have a series of people experiencing the same thing. So there's psychological issues like phobias. Someone who was bitten by a snake and died in a past life. Like I had somebody who had a brief life. As a child, they died because they were walking on a dirt road in I think it was Egypt, the Middle East somewhere, and they stepped on an asp. And an asp is a very poisonous snake. And they knew they were bitten by the snake and they died. In this life, they're terrified of snakes, or they were. So we got rid of that. Once she understood that this is where her phobia of snakes came from, she was able to reconcile. And this is the fascinating thing about past life regression. It's almost as if once you can put 2 and 2 together in your mind, it just zeroes out the problem. It just reconciles it. It dissolves. And sometimes that's instant. And sometimes it may take, 2 or 3 sessions, or it may take 2 or 3 weeks, after that session where you realized this is the source of your issue. So yeah, physical or psychological. Sometimes people have a physical problem. Like I had this one woman who I asked her higher self to bring us to the source of this heart problem. And we ended up in a castle where she was holding her husband's arm and they were going to retire. There was a lot of festivities in this great hall. And her cousin came up to her and pretended to talk to her and then stabbed her in the heart with a dagger. And, there's so many of these wonderful stories. They're very, very real to the people who are experiencing them. And after this experience, it was a very emotional experience for her. She was crying. I was crying because I was almost like right there with her. And after that, I would say I think it was about two or 3 weeks later, she realized she had tremendous energy. And she was able to climb up and down the stairs. She had a heart problem. She couldn't walk maybe 10 feet before she was out of breath. And after this session, she had tremendous energy. It just seemed to revitalize her. So, there's lots and lots of these stories of people who, once they reconcile it, once they put the 2 and 2 together, the issue seems to dissolve.
So people can come to you for one thing and the healing they get out of it is something quite opposite sometimes. Like maybe some people can come to you for one thing and actually what they're leaving from you is that they found what they're meant to be doing. They're calling.
Yes, could be. Exactly. People, I allow the higher self to do the steering. They're in the driver's seat. That person's my client's higher self. And we just go with that. So my job is simply to extract the information. And so this is where I told you I have to be on my toes, because I want to be able to get enough or plenty of information for them to ponder and think and understand the circumstances. So what also happens during a session is that I will sort of hop them forward. Sometimes we have to go backward, because depending on where we're dropped into the storyline, I want more information. So sometimes I have to bring them back, and you just count to 3. I'm going to count to 3, and at the count of 3, you'll be back 3 months. 1, 2, 3, right? And then they're there. And then I ask them, what do you sense around you? And then the story unfolds from that point. And even people start talking with funny accents. The accent of the person. And there's something called xenoglossy. It hasn't happened for me with my clients yet, but xenoglossy is when they start talking in a completely different language, like that they don't know in this life, like German or Mandarin or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy. But I've heard of those stories as well. And when these sessions are taking place, have you ever had any sort of communication with something that's sort of separate to the client in a sense, but it's communicating through them to you?
Yes, I have. And that is another fascinating thing, because it seems like they want to talk to me. So, or they want me to convey to their client. They want to, so for example, most of the time it's the higher self. Although I've been with people who have channeled 2 or 3 different entities. I can't remember who came through for me. I think it was Mother Teresa came to talk to me. There were 3 women that came through to talk to me one time. And anyway, it's a very fascinating experience. What happens is when you get into that deep state, you're open. You are open in order to understand. And in your opening, you're allowing other entities through. Now, of course, sometimes people get fearful of this. Most of the time, it's your higher self that comes through, your God self that comes through. And your God self wants the best for you. But you also have guides and you have angels. All of us have these things. So with practice, anybody can connect with their guides, connect with their higher self for more information, for more guidance. It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and it's that higher self that's got that sort of greater understanding. It's got the greater picture there, hasn't it? Which we've only got this sort of narrow view sometimes, and it can see what's best for you, maybe, which you're blocking sometimes for whatever reason.
Exactly. Yes. And so what happens is it's almost as if they're zoomed out. You're down here living your life, and they're way up here, seeing the whole picture. And because they don't live in linear time, this is a misnomer, actually, Kevin, this whole past life regression, future life progression, that's a misnomer, because all time exists in the now.
Well, so, yeah. Do you think some of those timelines are parallel realities, maybe, that that's happening to? Yeah.
Yes. And that's going to be part of my book, because I'm already working on that this one person has had 3 or 4 lifetimes in parallel, so that when he is born, the other lifetimes are also happening. So there's another example of that, how time is not linear. They say it happens in a burst. And so if this is your oversoul, and that's one lifetime, and that's one lifetime, and that's one lifetime, and all of these are lifetimes, and it happens in a shot like that, then they're all existing simultaneously. And so I'm developing this theory. I need corroboration. So sometime when somebody channels a higher entity for me, I'm going to ask them this. But If this lifetime is running at the same time as this lifetime and this lifetime, then when this lifetime learns something or has an experience, it's affecting this lifetime and this lifetime. So they're all growing. They're all learning. They're all absorbing the wisdom from each other.
And I wonder
that's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if you can put plant seeds where, you can get the client to move more towards a lifetime that they've talked about that maybe is more, well, I'm almost saying that you think's more beneficial for them, but maybe there's interaction with the client at that time where that's the sort of direction they want to go in. I mean, you've sort of had a conversation with them before, I'm guessing, or what the things that they would like to do. And if there's this one particular lifetime, I mean, can you move towards that lifetime? I mean, is that even a possibility if you're sort of strapped to this existence, this movement?
I believe that you can bring in the wisdom from those other lifetimes. Now, when it comes to doing the induction, I ask them, set the intention and give it up like a helium balloon. Give it up to your higher self. Set the intention to go to a place that's going to help you with whatever, blah, 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 the issue is. So many times they get exactly what they asked for, but they didn't expect.
Yes.
It's always, yeah. It's always something that's going to help them for their highest and best good.
Okay. So,
yeah,
obviously I've, run into regressionists before where they've, had the same client, well, not the same client, but multiple clients, channeling the same lifetime in a sense. Have you experienced that where, there was some sort of famous lifetime, but how could they all have the same famous lifetime?
I have not experienced that. I have not, and thankfully I haven't. I don't know. Would that be? I've never heard of that. I know everybody likes to think that they were Julius Caesar, or they were Cleopatra, or they were, but I've never had that.
Maybe there's an aspect of that lifetime that they've taken with them in this lifetime. They never actually experienced it in person that lifetime, but there's an aspect of that lifetime they brought through with them for some reason to bring into this lifetime for the journey that they're on. But when they review it, maybe they see it as theirs, but it's just because this is all still coming through a conscious person, so there is a sort of element of decoding that's taking place, and sometimes maybe we don't always decode it the way it is because it's so far from our perception of what reality really is.
That could be. Maybe they are channeling the entity of Cleopatra or Anne Boleyn or somebody. Maybe they're actually channeling the entity.
That's also true as well. But you must have had notable success stories. I mean, there must be clients who have had or undergone past life regression therapy with you that have gone through such amazing change as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Lasting change. I had one client who had been just gone through so much pain and torment over a shoulder that he assumed was a high school injury. And he actually discovered that he was an archer. It's really weird because he had characteristics in his past life that actually bled through into this life. So he was an archer. When I regressed him, he was in the middle of a fight. He had just been struck in the shoulder with an arrow. His comrades had pulled him away from the window, and he died like that. But he was cursing and swearing and cursing for some time as the life drained out of him. Coming out of that, his shoulder pain, that was an instant one. It instantly went away, and as I said, he had been tormented by that for years. But he realized that he had signed up in this life to go into the Marines at 18 years old. And the second he did, he was so angry about being in the Army or being in the Marines, military. And he had 2 terrible years, couldn't wait to get out. But one of the things he did discover was that he was a tremendous marksman, which was a bleed through from him being a tremendous archer.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? So,
it is.
yeah, with some of these memories then that people are having, how do you validate then what's an authentic past life regression memory to that which, the mind is able to sort of, come up with as well, maybe? How do you differentiate, what people are bringing through to what you feel is authentic or not authentic?
Well, the question of authenticity is not one for me to determine. It doesn't really matter if it's real or not. What matters is how the person reacts to it. So I'm always looking for the emotional connection. And what matters is the changes that occur in their own life after that experience, because things start to reconcile. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's authentic or not. Like that's not for me to judge. However, they often look for validation. And as I said to you about the cranberries earlier on, when they can verify, for example, I had one person go back to the 12th or 13th century, and he was describing these hats to me. And he was able to research, because he wanted to determine what century this was. And he was able to research and discover these hats. And they were ridiculous looking hats, but he felt validated that he wasn't fabricating this. And that was good for him. It didn't matter to me. But, the visions are so... They're I said to somebody else, they're almost more real than memories. They are so real to these people who are having these experiences that for them to see the validation, on the internet with a little bit of research, yeah, that was the hat. That was just like the hat, that I saw. That's for them. That helps them. For me, there's no proof that needs to be had. I've seen so many changes in people. That's the proof for me. I know what I do works, and if they need to prove it to themselves, because they often do feel like they're fabricating it, or it's just their imagination. But it was so real that So it's like this: they say this, and then they say that, and then they say, "Well, how could I have made that up? Because how did I know that Kansas is the biggest wheat producer?" How would I know that?
Right. Yeah. It's not something that's always on your mind, is it? That's right, or conscious mind. And I bet some of these people,
Exactly.
as they've come out of that session and they've gone home, maybe they've taken a part of that life with them for a very short while. Maybe they're acting out some aspects of that life as it fades away gradually over the day of having that session with you, remotely, I should say.
I think you're right. They could, because I've heard them tell me, like, I was so spun out, by that experience for the rest of that day. So I do, while they're in hypnosis, I do give them a suggestion that they're going to sleep very soundly and they're going to wake up full of energy. And I also tell them that they are going to be able to get more and more information as the days and weeks progress about this lifetime, if they so choose.
And I bet for some of them, it's a struggle that, the life they went to, they was the opposite sex. And that must be strange for some people.
I think it is. However, that's my understanding of how the soul works. It's if the soul is too heavily weighted in the feminine body or in a masculine body, I think that's when we have, that's when the soul tries to balance it out and comes back and becomes a very effeminate man or a very masculine woman. So this is the soul trying to balance, the lifetimes.
And if someone doesn't want to view a scene that's taking place, then they don't have to. You can take them out of that. There's nothing we have to see. It's disturbing.
Well, there's two schools of thought in that, Kevin. One is that if you really want to get over your thing, whatever it is that you're experiencing, you really should have that emotional connection and be in the body to experience it. Now, on the other hand, I don't want to see somebody going through serious trauma. So I suggest to them that if they choose, that they can just observe it like a movie, and as the observer outside of the body, and watch the scene. So I think either way there's a reconciliation.
Okay. And when those sessions are taking place, and probably more towards the end of the sessions, I should add that it's a real release of any negative energy as well. Whatever the issue is, whatever that negativity mostly that's causing the issue, somehow it's released by taking you back to this particular scene, to this particular happening.
Let me explain what I understand about that. When something traumatic happens to us, it is like, it's called a samskara. The Hindu have a term called samskara, which is like an energy package. And this energy package stays stuck, like in your auric field, and it is compelled to reconcile itself. So you have this issue that travels with you from lifetime to lifetime. It's a ball or an energy block that is compelling you along certain patterns in your lifetime. And so when you re-experience that trauma, when you go to the point that trauma was created, it dissolves that energy block, and there's no more compulsion to reconcile it. It has been reconciled, and it dissolves and it dissipates. So this trauma that we experience in past lives, usually it's at a point of death, and it's not just a death where you just fell asleep and you didn't wake up. It's a death that you were pushed off a ledge, or you were hung, or you were decapitated, or stabbed, or if you were young as a child and you died early from starvation or something. This is almost like a tangible thing that gets stuck in your energy field, and it's compelled to reconcile. It's compelled to repeat itself, to present the same challenge over and over again until you realize you're not afraid of snakes anymore. They're not going to hurt you. The issue resolves itself.
And that's just one analogy of so many different issues that people come to you with as well. Where does karma play a role in this then as well, or does it?
I don't think a lot about karma, but I think people use karma as an excuse not to change. I think we all have to take responsibility for our lives and creating our reality. Every single thing. Now, I don't like to think about positive and negative either, because that's polarized. And this world, yes, we are living in a polarized world. This is good and bad, right and wrong, north and south, and it's about judgment. I prefer to think about life as, it's not my business. I have no business judging that. That's how I try to work with my clients and work with the people in my life. That's not my place to make a judgment about your life. If you like it, that's great. So I think, this whole karmic thing, it kind of goes away when you think about carrying around these energy blocks, these samskaras that are stuck in your field. You've got to deal with it. It's your crap. You've got to resolve it.
Yeah. And some of these sessions, I guess, are very personal. They're very, there's a trust with yourself that, whatever's said there's a confidentiality, because some of these issues, some people may never have talked to anybody about.
I agree that that many people tell me stuff that they don't tell other people. And I guess that's because they trust me and they feel comfortable with me. But you know what? We're all the same, Kevin. We've all got our stuff. We've all been scoundrels and we've all been saints. And so, we can't, it just goes back to, it's not my place to judge your life. It's not my place to judge your experience. And that's how I see it when I'm dealing with people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's so true. I mean, no matter what you're doing in this lifetime, it may not look very spiritual and doesn't need to. We don't know what we got up into our past life, if such things exist, and I believe they do, that, you've just got things to experience in this life that you've maybe put off for so many lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one potential lifetime where you don't have to, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that perspective. It's true.
When you look at it from a different perspective, a greater perspective of a soul that's always been, always will be, and this is a blip, but this is an important blip. I think it's, life's so precious in a sense that, some people will be like, oh, I'll sort that out in the next lifetime, or, oh, I don't need to worry about it, I don't need to address that, I'll do that another time. But it's like, well, damn, you could have done it this time. Do you know what I mean?
I think all of these supposed past lifetimes, I think they're all converging in this now, because I believe that we all chose to be here at this time. This is a momentous time in human history. The frequency is changing on the planet. People are becoming more loving of each other and of themselves, and it has to start with yourself. I'm excited to be here in this time, in our future. I think old ways are falling down. This truly is. We're coming into the age of Aquarius, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful time for all of us.
So true.
So much to look forward to.
Yeah. And that's no judgment on what anyone does with their life, neither, because I think no matter in these times of great change, right? What's the one message that comes through from a lot of people that come on this show? Live your value fulfillment. Do what you fulfilled to do. What gets you going, whatever that may be. As long as you're not knowingly hurting yourself or other people, get on with it.
Exactly.
You don't need to put it. It doesn't need to be this kind of saint type of lifestyle. I don't think we came here to live that. It's
I agree.
A bit boring.
I agree.
Me. Yeah.
You know what I believe? I believe we came here, Kevin, to have experiences and gain wisdom by those experiences. We came here to do all kinds of things, and if you think about us all as actors, when our higher self or our souls have expressed, into this physical body to have this experience, this is almost like a ride. It's like a ride where, you have exciting turns and twists and, anticipation as you climb the top of the roller coaster, that's what I feel this life is. And, we might get life might throw us some curves and some grief, but just think about what we learn as we go through those challenges and how we become fortified, and the perspectives that we gain, the wisdom that we gain. I just see life like that, and we're here to have fun, and we're here to love each other.
Yep, very true, very true. Is there anything like a theme of people that are coming to see you right now in the sense of the times that we're going through as well? Is there sort of something that's common with people right now that are coming to you?
It's self-love. It's self-love. It's learning to love themselves, and I'm always brought back to that vision that the flight attendants tell you, if this plane is going down, put your own oxygen mask on first and then attend to, your child. So this is how I feel about love.
Yep. I think there's something in that, in the sense that, you can't give to others what you can't give to yourself. And if your cup's not overflowing, all this, well, I've got to be of service, I've got to give. Yes, but if you're, not feeding yourself neither, it's not going to help anyone, is it?
Exactly. And I do believe, yes, you've got to be in service, and I do believe you've got to give, but you got to take care of number one first. And I don't mean that to be competitive and vindictive and all those qualities that aren't high energy qualities. You do have to honor thyself.
Do you think a lot of this is pre-planned? Do you think there's a pre-planning stage before birth? That does that come up in your work at all? That some of this stuff, even though it's
Yes.
with free will, right? However that works, but I think it does.
Yes.
There is some, you're destined to go that way. You're destined to do this, but the rest of it, there's a bit of free will in the path to get there.
A little bit of leeway. No, I think what happens is we choose the challenges that we're going to face. We choose the circumstances of our birth. We choose the parents that we are born to. But we can also choose, once we're in the body and in those circumstances, how we're going to deal with them and if we're going to take on that challenge. You see? So this is where the free will comes in. And this is where, what you just said about, I'll do it next time. I'll do it next life, right? So we have those options.
Yes, we do. Have clients taken you? Have you taken clients to that part of existence that's in between this space?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that's the conversation. Usually they have a wise one or two that is helping them choose their next lifetime, so that it fits these challenges. And, these challenges are often tied in with those samskaras, those energy blocks that need to be reconciled. So that's the challenges that and the obstacles that you're born into with your life. Like, if your parents divorced when you were 2 years old, or you chose that, you chose those circumstances so that you could be, so you could gain the wisdom that you're meant to gain in that lifetime.
Right, right. Now, you mentioned before about the healing properties of this work as well, and that people with with illnesses, I was going to use the word some illnesses, can maybe learn to deal with it differently, or can it be a full miraculous healing? I mean,
It can.
it can, but what if there's certain things that you can't heal because you're meant to go through it?
That's true too. And maybe you are meant to go through it, but that's between you and your higher self. Nobody can force healing. So if it's all aligned, because I do believe that many, many illnesses are, dare I say, most illnesses are mental patterns. This is a book by Louise Hay that I reference quite a bit. I don't know. Do you know this book, Kevin? Yeah. So oftentimes I'll reference this book and see, what's the source of the bladder infection, or what's the source of the multiple sclerosis, or what's this, and a lot of times when people are faced with the mental pattern, it's not the mental pattern that says, oh, I'm going to get cancer. Oh, I'm going to get cancer. Oh, I'm going to get, that's not it. It's not dwelling on cancer. It's very, very specific. Breast cancer is over mothering, over nurturing, overprotecting, and overbearing attitudes.
Yes, but for someone that's got that, though, sorry to butt in here, it may not be in this lifetime for that to be resolved. I mean, yes, they can come to you to see a deeper meaning from their higher self, but does that really mean that, yes, and they're still going to keep their Western medicine going, but does that really mean that they could have a miraculous recovery? Or is it, because some things, I'll go back, are they destined to stay there?
I believe anybody can heal themselves if they truly want to heal themselves. Because there's There's definitely an energy blockage. All illness is energy blockage, whether it's this life or whether it's a past life.
Okay, well, let's go to anger then. Let's go to anger. I'm sort of buying it, but you know,
Yeah.
anger causes a lot of issues in the body, right?
Anger causes cancer.
Anger does cause cancer. And the thing is that a person with anger and with cancer is probably not going to, or may not ever come across someone with your abilities to take them down or through, because they're not ready in this life to even want to go down that road, to face it. They don't, they're
And that's their
blocked.
choice.
They're blocked from facing what's really causing their issues
But
because
who's
of their
blocking
choice.
them?
Well, they are, but they won't see it like that.
But that's their choice too. All things are available. When you're on a hunt, when you're seeking answers, they will find you. You will find the answers. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
What's putting off someone seeking it then? There's got to be some deep shit, isn't there, to not want to seek it? Or is it because, again, they're not supposed to seek it because it's the ripple effect of what it does to people around them to go through as well? Is there bigger choices being made that they don't even understand, that we don't understand even in this conversation?
Could be, but this is a hypothetical situation. So you'd have to go, if the person is meant to go through it from a higher perspective, is meant to be blocked from seeing the way out, they'll be blocked. But if they really want to live, if they really want to face their stuff, they will find the answers.
Yeah, maybe it's too painful for some people. Who knows, right?
That's what I think.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
People are afraid of emotion. They're afraid of emotion. They're afraid to be vulnerable. They're afraid to expose themselves. They're afraid to face the facts. Truth will set you free, but we're not talking about universal truth. We're talking about personal truth. Don't lie to yourself. We're getting way out there. But
yes, but it's true. I mean, you see the suffering of people, and there's all these types of blockages going on.
The other thing is that people give responsibility for their bodies over to the medical establishment. And that is also their choice.
That establishment has to be there, and I think, and it does help. But I think it's probably there's this type of spiritual healing that can help as well, on top of the Western medicine as well. I mean, it goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
What about Eastern medicine? What about Ayurvedic medicine? What about chelation therapy type of medicine? There's so many alternatives to Western medicine. So
I suppose you've got to be on the search. You've got to be on the search. You've got to want it. Yeah, you've got to want it.
That's right.
But I think you hit the nail on the head earlier on, actually, when you said, they're too scared. That you was basically saying they're too scared to face their own emotions. But apparently we all have a life review. So at some point in the existence of no time, which could look like centuries in the blink of an eye of just trying to come to terms with reflecting upon yourself, that eventually maybe they get there in the end. Maybe they do.
I'm sure.
A few more lifetimes.
I'm sure. We all get there in the end.
Right. Yeah, we do.
Did you know, Kevin, I just want to say, did you know that the Kirlians, do you know what Kirlian photography is?
Don't know.
Kirlian photography, it's in all the psychic fairs now. They take a photograph of your auric field. And this was sort of devised or developed by a couple, the Kirlians. I think it was Cornelius Kirlian, I'm not sure, but they were Russian, and this was developed in the 30s. And one of the things that they discovered was that disease can be seen, dis-ease, by the way, can be seen in your auric field 5 years before it descends or coagulates into your physical body. So they've taken photographs. The Russians have done a lot of work of your field, and they can see spots where disease is already starting. Now, all disease is emotional blockage. This is the energy that is the samskara that is in your field that needs to be resolved. So we have to go through the emotion in order to release that.
For one life event, that's whatever's going on in one person's life event. I'm talking about a past life event. We don't need to
Mm-hmm.
suffer in this life for that one life event. It can be brought to the surface with work like this to help heal.
Yes. Yes, of course. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of why I do what I do. To draw that out, to resolve it, to dissolve it, and then it won't manifest in the body.
And sometimes I suppose the healing, it could be the people that are around you as well. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's come up in sessions before.
Well, as you change, the people around you change, right?
I guess so. Yep.
That's a big part of psychotherapy. As soon as you make changes, the people around you go to work trying to push you back into place because they don't want to change. So if you are steadfast in your change, then they have to change.
Yeah. And do you find it just incredible just how much power is in the subconscious?
Oh, this is why I got into this in the first place. Have you ever read the book The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, Dr. Joseph Murphy?
I've not, no.
I was like 14 years old when I read that book, and that's part of, this evolution and this fascination with hypnosis, because this is how you open the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind has no judgment, right? It's the mind of God. It has no judgment over you. It doesn't know good from bad. If you say, I don't want to be attacked in the parking lot on my way to the car, every night when it's dark, you are actually telling your subconscious mind to arrange it so that you are attacked. It's like praying for something you don't want. So your subconscious is so, so powerful. It's like fertile ground, and you put the seeds in there, and they could be good seeds or they could be bad seeds, but the subconscious is going to manifest it.
Yes. No, so true. That's a powerful statement, actually. Yeah, no, thank you just for reminding us of that as well. I had
Wonderful.
what I thought was, 2016, living in Holland. This guy wants to come on my show. He's been practicing Dolores Cannon's method. He's changed it a bit. And he wants to come on to just give me a session because he wants an interview. I did give him an interview in the end. And I went to the future. I didn't go to the past. Have you had that many times with clients?
Yes. Yeah. I had a fellow go to, this guy's going to be in my book, go to the future, and it was near future. It was like 20 to 30 years in the future. And there was free energy, and there was levitate. You go shopping, say, for clothing, and you get these cute little, boutique bags. They were levitating beside the people who had bought the things in the bag. He saw a courthouse where it was open for tours, and they had pictures of how they used to hold court there, and it was wonderful. There was no noise in town. There were no motorized vehicles. It was fascinating. How about your experience?
This was within this lifetime. It started off in like 2025 and went quite a way along. Mine was setting up a news network called the International Spiritual News Network, where it was looking at the news from a deeper spiritual perspective. So reporting the news as is, and then having people with gifts to look at the deeper karmic reason behind it. And supposed to start this year.
Wow.
But I don't know. You've got to feel a pull to want to do it, and I've got there a bit. I'm getting there a bit. It's just where there's other things that you want to experience as well, which would be just as nice. But yeah, maybe it's one thing I'm going to do. Yes.
There are probable realities, and this is how I like to see it. Say, this is the most probable reality. This is a potential reality, and that's a potential reality. And there's so many potential realities, but there is a probable reality. So you don't have to Well, that it could be probably, psychics have a hard time with me because I change my mind so much.
It's terrible, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, well, that's right. If you're going to keep changing your mind, well, that's how it works, isn't it? I mean, you've got the free will to change your
Exactly.
mind. Um, I
Exactly.
mean, I've been setting up things for it to go in that direction, and
Hmm.
it's there. I know it's there. I know it's there. It's there.
The world
Um,
needs that. The world needs it, Kevin.
I know. Yeah.
Just a little bit at a time, inch by inch, anything's a cinch.
Well, what I saw in the not too distant future was the world had gone through a great change. It wasn't the end of anything,
Mhm.
but there had been a shift. War, other things, not global. It was nothing like that, but there were problems, and it was, yeah. And when I look at what's going on right now, I'm like, damn, um, yeah. But it was no, it's not this doom and gloom. Um, Trump never got in for a second term. I hate to say that, but the guy asked me that in the reading, and he never got in for a second term. But then again, I might be wrong. I don't know. It did feel real though. Mind you, looking at all his court cases.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And it was Edgar Casey that was taking us on this trip. He was the one that was guiding us. Um,
Interesting.
yeah. We would go. I was, in Los Angeles at one point, and just one of these news centers, and but it wasn't me
Wow.
present. It wasn't me presenting in the end. I'd taken a back seat, and it was other people doing it. I think I'd gone to other things. Um,
Yes, but
yeah.
that's how you'd want it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I've got other
You don't
things
want
I
to
want
work
to do.
forever.
I want to work, but
Right.
not doing things that I don't always want to do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. I've got other
There's
things.
there's the next bridge to cross. There's the next challenge to overcome.
Obviously, with people watching this, if they feel pulled to get a past life therapy session with you, what is, well, how should they prepare themselves for it? I mean, that's a question that people do
Well,
ask.
Kevin, I always have people book in with me for a what I call a discovery session. It's 15 to 30 minutes. What it does is it helps to establish a bit of a rapport between us. I get to understand if their expectations are realistic. I don't want them wasting any money if they have unrealistic expectations, or if I feel that past life regression is not what they would serve them best. So I like to meet with people for a short time. It also helps to build a trust. They get to talk to me, and I get to talk to them. We get to just build a rapport, and so that's essential, and that's complementary. I do that. That's the first step, and then after that, we decide how we're going to proceed.
Because some people may come, worried about just, am I going to be able to go down? I really want to go down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's going to come through? So you guide them through that. With that pre-session, you're able to take a lot of that anxiety away as well. And
Mm-hmm.
with the clients that you've had as well, what, obviously you've had some future progressions. What did they see the sort of short-term outcome of the world as it is right now, with all the changes that are taking place right now?
Well, I think it generally it is the breaking down of the controlling institutions. That's what I understand. They all have sort of different takes on it, but I think, yes, we're in for a period of change, because once things break down, they have to be rebuilt. But I think, right, and so there has to be a shift. There has to be a change. I don't know how far out you want me to get, but we've been under the control of off-world ETs for a long time, and it's really influenced how humanity has progressed. My belief is that people are generally good, and if we all had enough food, and if we all had enough of whatever we need to survive, if there weren't haves and have-nots, I think we'd thrive. But we've been very, very influenced.
Can you imagine that, the free will of everyone just to do what they feel passionate or
Mm-hmm.
value fulfilled to
Exactly.
do, what they could add to the planet? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Um, But then
What a
again,
world that would be.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. And I don't think people would want to get stoned all the time, or do this and that. I think that you would get bored of that lifestyle. You would want to you'd want to do something that was gonna be the better
Fulfill
version of
you,
yourself. You fulfill you as well. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
fulfill you and contribute. There is nothing that is more gratifying than somebody saying, "Oh my God, I am so happy I had that experience." This is for me, right? I'm so happy I met you. Oh my gosh. There's nothing more gratifying than to influence someone else's life, or to help them better their lives, and that they're grateful to you for that.
yeah, yeah. And that's what you've been doing with your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love it.
Well, Tracy, remind us of your website, please.
It's visitapastlife.com. Yeah.
With your book, I was going to say, interesting to see what your book's going to be, but I think we'll probably get you back on for that as well. So, all the best with the launch of that, and we'll see you for that. And
thank you.
Yeah, I just wish you all the best with everything you're doing as well, and just thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. I've really enjoyed myself, and I can't believe a whole hour has gone by.